Hi, y'all. I don't know why I started out the video like that. Hi, everyone. Welcome to video 3 of 2A ANOVA. In the last video, we looked at the marginal means and main effects for our between subjects, 2A between subjects ANOVA, looking at the effects of gender and frustration on aggression. To summarize, we found that there is a significant main effect of frustration, right? Such that people exhibited greater aggression under high versus low frustration, right? And now we're going to assess whether this significant main effect, whether this difference between low and high frustration, whether that replicates for both women and men. Also, we did not actually find a significant main effect of gender. There was no differences in aggression between men and women overall across the levels of frustration, right? So is this non-difference going to replicate both under low and high frustration? That's what we're gonna take a look at, right? So we're gonna take a look at whether there's an interaction between gender and frustration, because an interaction is when the effect of one variable changes across the levels of another variable. So is the effect of frustration going to be the same for women as it is for men? Is the effect of gender going to be the same under low as well as high frustration? There we go. And so now we're going to focus on the cell means, because the cell means help assess whether there is an interaction. Remember, marginal means assess main effects, and then the cell means, the means for the independent groups, the four independent groups, help assess whether there is an interaction. So is there an interaction here between frustration and gender? We need to plot the cell means. And so we're going to draw a line graph here. So this is where the figure is going to come into play here. So we're going to draw a line graph, right, by plotting each of the cell means, each of the four cell means. And so if you look at the line graph here, we have aggression on the y-axis, and then we have frustration on the x, one of our independent variables. So we have low and high frustration, right? And then we're going to draw separate lines for women and men. So the women will be the dotted line, we'll draw a dotted line, and for men, a solid line. So let's start with women, right? So we have women under low frustration. They have a mean aggression score of 1. And so we'll plot that here, right? So under low frustration, women have a mean aggression score of 1. And then under high frustration, they have a mean score of 9. Right? And then for men, right, we have the same pattern where men under low frustration have a score of 1, and then under high frustration, a score of 9. So M standing for the males and male, and then F for female here, just in case that wasn't apparent. Right? And then we're going to just draw lines connecting the M's and F's. So connecting the F's, connecting the M's, and there we have our line graph for these for hypothetical result A. Now, looking at the line graph, we can actually assess whether or how likely there is an interaction going on, right? And this depends on how parallel the lines are, how parallel the M, the male line, is to the female line. And so as the lines become more parallel, there's less of a chance of an interaction. Or you can say that, semantically, you can, say the reverse. So as the lines become less parallel, there's more of a chance of an interaction. So how parallel are the lines here for men and women? They're exactly parallel, right? They sort of look like railroad tracks, right? They're right next to each other. So these lines are exactly parallel, so we should not have any interaction. There's no hint of an interaction here going on. But let's go through and look at what we call the simple effects. Right? So let's first look at whether the difference between men and women changes under low versus high frustration. Right? So we're looking here at the gender difference under low and then the gender difference under high frustration. So if we look under low frustration, is there a gender difference? No, right? Men and women both have a mean score of 1, so there is no gender difference under low frustration. Now, if we look under high frustration here, is there a gender difference? No, right? Women have a mean score of 9, men have a mean score of 9, so there is no gender difference under high frustration either. The effect of gender, the simple effect of gender, is the same under low frustration as it is under high, right? So the difference between men and women does not change under low versus high frustration. Men and women do not differ in aggression, right? Regardless of whether they are under low versus high frustration. So again, we say that the simple effect of gender here is the same, that is non-significant across the levels of frustration. Right, say that again. So the simple effect of gender is the same, non-significant. There is no gender difference under low and high frustration. Right? There is no big but here. Right? No big but yet. So if we were to translate that into a conclusion that's more accessible, more digestible, right? If you said the simple effect of gender is the same, not significant across the levels of frustration to your mom or your peer, probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But if we translate that into a conclusion, sort of quote unquote in English, no jargon, you could say that men and women do not differ in aggression, right? Whether they are frustrated or not. Or you could say there are no gender differences in aggression, regardless of whether they are under low versus high frustration. Multiple ways that you can say this, right? But men and women do not differ in their levels of aggression, right? Regardless of whether they are under low versus high frustration, right? No big buts. So now let's look at the other set of simple effects here. So does the difference between low and high frustration change for men and women? So now we're looking horizontally here at the difference between low and high frustration for women and then men. So if we look for just for women here, right? We have under low frustration a mean score of 9, and then under high frustration, sorry, Duchess is trying to eat my bird is trying to eat my keyboard right now. Let's say that again. So under low frustration, women have a mean score of 1, and under high frustration, a mean score of 9. So frustration, right, is an increasing aggression for women. Women are exhibiting greater aggression under high frustration than low. Does this pattern replicate for men? So if we look for men here, they have a mean aggression score of 1 under low frustration, and then 9 under high. So for men, again, men are exhibiting greater aggression under high than low frustration, which mirrors the pattern that we're seeing for women, right? So does the difference between low and high frustration change for men and women? No, it's the same, right? So we can say the simple effect of frustration is the same or significant across the levels of gender, right? We are seeing that frustration is increasing aggression equally for men as it is for women here. So the simple effect of frustration is the same for women as it is for men. That is, the difference between low and high frustration is the same for women as it is for men. No big buts. So we can say that high frustration increased aggression for both men and women when compared to low frustration, right? Or you can say that, frustration, or you can say, something like under high frustration, participants exhibited greater aggression than under low frustration, regardless of gender, right? No big buts. And then if you're to actually write out the full conclusion here, then you could combine these separate sort of mini conclusions, right? So if you were to write out an overall conclusion for this between subjects ANOVA, you could just combine these different conclusions. So you could say men and women did not differ in aggression, whether they are very frustrated or not, right? And then you could also say, high frustration, increased aggression for both men and women compared to low frustration. So for each set of hypothetical results or each analysis that we look at, two-way ANOVA analysis that we do in SPSS, we are going to fill out a sort of a step-by-step questionnaire here for each analysis. And so I think this really helps summarize, put into perspective the results that we just looked at. And so we're going to follow and we're going to do something similar for each set of results that we look at, each two-way ANOVA that we look at, right? So to summarize, was there a main effect of frustration? Yes, right? There was a significant main effect of frustration. And so if there is a main effect of frustration, in which conditions did participants exhibit higher or greater aggression? High, right? Under high frustration, participants exhibited greater aggression, right? And we can see that, go back to the marginal means, right? Here we see the main effect of frustration. People are exhibiting greater aggression under high versus low frustration, right? But there was no main effect of gender, right? There was no significant main effect of gender. Men and women, right, overall did not exhibit differences in aggression. So when it comes to number 3, was there a main effect of gender? No, there's no main effect of gender. And if there, so number 4, if there was a main effect of gender, which gender exhibited higher aggression, we would say C, not applicable, because there's no main effect of gender. So number 5, is there an interaction? Right? Was there an interaction? No, there was no interaction. Right? And 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 on here will demonstrate why there was not a significant interaction, right? Because an interaction is when the effect of one independent variable changes across the levels of another. So number 6, is the simple effect of frustration significant for women? Right, so if you look back, this slide, was the simple effect of frustration significant for women? Did we find a difference between high and low frustration for women? Yes, we did, right? Was the simple effect of frustration significant for men? Did we find a difference between high and low frustration for men? Yes, we did, right? So the simple effect of frustration was significant for women, and the effect of simple effect of frustration was also significant for men, right? The effect of frustration did not change, right? Did not differ for women versus men. We both answered yes. For number 8, is the simple effect of gender significant for those in the high frustration condition? Was there a gender difference under high frustration? Right, so was there a gender difference under high frustration? No, right? Men and women both had mean scores of 9. There was no gender difference under high, right? So there was, we would say that there is no, right, significant simple effect of gender under high frustration. There's no gender difference under high. And then was the simple effect of frustration significant Under low frustration, was there a gender difference under low frustration? No, right? Men and women both had mean aggression scores of 1 under low frustration. There was no gender difference. Right, so the simple effect of gender, was the simple effect of gender significant for those in the high frustration condition? No. Is the simple effect of gender significant for those under low frustration? No, right? So the effect of gender, the simple effect of gender did not change under high versus low frustration. These answers were both no. If we did have an interaction, then we should have different answers for 6 and 7 and or 8 or 9. Right? If there's an interaction, we would see a yes, no, or no, yes pattern for 6 and 7, and or a different set of responses for 8 and 9. We would see a yes, no, or no, yes pattern for 8 or 9 if there was an interaction. But if the answers for 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 are the same, which they are here, 6 and 7 are both yes, 8 and 9 are both no, then we should not have an interaction. All right, so I'm going to end the video there, but I want to tell you about what's coming up next. All right, so in the following slides, in the PowerPoint, you will see hypothetical results B, C, and D. So I want you to try to do these hypothetical results on your own following hypothetical result A. All right, so I want you to try to go through and do the hypothetical results for B, set B, C, and D. All right, so first do the main effects. First calculate the marginal means, find out whether there are main effects of gender and frustration, plot the cell means, uh, see if there looks like there's an interaction going on, and then assess the simple effects. That just as we did for hypothetical result A. All right. And so I want you to try to do this on your own, but the next video will go through each hypothetical result. Maybe not as slowly as we did for result A, but I'll go through each one. But I want you to try to do as much as you can on your own for B, C, and D here.